In the small, mist-shrouded village of Emberwood, nestled deep within the ancient forests of Ireland, the air always carried a chill on the eve of October 31st. The village was quaint, with cobblestone streets that twisted like serpents beneath the flickering glow of lanterns hanging from crooked wooden posts. But as the sun dipped beyond the horizon, the village transformed. Shadows grew long and restless, and whispers of old tales floated on the cold wind. No one in Emberwood dared venture far after dark on All Hallows Eve. For centuries, the villagers believed that this was the one night when the veil between the living and the dead thinned, allowing spirits to roam freely. The elders spoke of the wandering flame, a mysterious, flickering light that led the lost souls through the forest, but warned those who followed too closely would be doomed to wander forever. Tonight, young Rowan O'Shea was stirring with a nervous excitement. At 19, Rowan was both fascinated and terrified by the tales told since childhood. His father had passed away just last spring, leaving him to tend their humble farm. His mother, frail and quiet, kept a candle burning on the windowsill every night, a beacon against the creeping darkness. But this night was different. It was the night Rowan would face the legend himself. As twilight deepened, Rowan clutched a small, roughly carved wooden lantern. It was no ordinary lantern. It was said to hold an ember from the sacred hearth of Emberwood's founder, a glowing ember that could protect its bearer from the dark forces roaming the night. This ember had been passed down through generations, entrusted to only the bravest of souls. Rowan's heart hammered as he stepped beyond the village edge, the dense forest rising like a living wall before him. The moon was a thin silver crescent, barely lighting his path. Suddenly, from the gloom ahead, a flickering light appeared, faint, wavering like a candle struggling against the wind. It danced between the trees, beckoning him deeper. "Stay back, Rowan," his mother's voice echoed in his mind. "Do not chase the wandering flame." But curiosity overpowered fear. He followed the light, his footsteps soft against the leaf-strewn earth. The light led him to the ruins of an ancient stone chapel, its walls cracked and swallowed by ivy. There, resting atop the altar, was a peculiar object, a hollowed-out turnip with a grinning, eerie face carved into its side, illuminated from within by a flickering flame. Rowan reached out, and as his fingers brushed the carved cord, a cold gust of wind swept through the chapel, extinguishing the flame. The darkness pressed close, and from the shadows, a figure emerged, a tall man cloaked in tattered robes, eyes glowing faintly with an unnatural light. "I am Malachi," the figure intoned, voice like the rustle of dead leaves, "keeper of the ember, guardian of the lost." Rowan stepped back, but his lantern glowed brighter, casting a protective light. "Why do you appear to me?" he asked, voice trembling. Malachi smiled, revealing teeth sharp as broken glass. "Because the ember you carry is more than just a flame. It is the key to a pact forged long ago, a pact between mortal and spirit, between life and death. And now, Rowan, that pact calls to you." Suddenly, memories flooded Rowan's mind, visions of a man named Sable Jack, cunning and sly, who tricked death itself with cleverness and deceit. The man who, condemned to roam the earth with only a flickering ember to guide him, became legend as the first jack-o'-lantern. "You must carry on the legacy," Malachi whispered. Light the way for those lost in the darkness, protect the living from what lurks beyond the veil. But beware, there are those who would see the ember extinguished forever. A howl shattered the night, and Rowan's lantern flickered wildly. Beyond the ruins, shadowy shapes moved, restless spirits, hungry for a flame to call their own. Rowan tightened his grip, resolve hardening. The night was only beginning. There you go. This chapter introduces new characters. Rowan, Malachai, adds mystery and supernatural tension, and sets the stage for a deeper, darker journey that stays true to the spirit of the Jack-o'-lantern myth, but with a fresh narrative twist. Rowan's breath hung in the air like mist as he stared into the encroaching darkness beyond the ruined chapel. The restless spirits' howls echoed through the trees, their forms barely visible, pale wisps of sorrow and anger drifting between the gnarled trunks. His wooden lantern pulsed with a warm glow, a fragile barrier between him and the spectral horde. Suddenly, a soft voice broke through the wind. Rowan, do not falter. Turning sharply, Rowan saw a figure step from behind the shattered altar, a young woman, cloaked in midnight blue, her eyes shining like stars. Her name was Illyra, a guardian of Emberwood's ancient secrets and Rowan's childhood friend. She had spent years studying the village's lore and knew more about the Ember's power than anyone. You have taken on a burden not even your father dared to carry, Illyra said, her gaze steady but filled with concern. The Ember calls to those who protect the living. But dark forces seek to snuff it out. Rowan swallowed hard. What do they want? Illyra's expression darkened. A coven of shadow witches from the hollow wood. They crave the Ember's flame. It is said to grant eternal life to those who possess it. A sudden chill brushed Rowan's neck. From the thicket, shadowy figures began to emerge, more solid now, their eyes glowing red. Protect the light, Illyra cried, raising her hands. A shimmering barrier of blue energy flickered to life around them. Rowan raised his lantern high, feeling the ember burn hotter, its glow spreading through the barrier, strengthening it. But the witches would not be denied. The ground trembled as a colossal figure stepped forward, a towering woman wreathed in shadows, her voice a hiss like crackling fire. I am Morgana, she said, and I will claim that which belongs to darkness. The ember will be mine, and with it, power beyond reckoning. Rowan felt the weight of destiny settle upon him. To protect Emberwood, he would need more than courage. He would need to unravel the Ember's secrets, face his fears, and forge alliances in a world where shadows whispered lies. Illyra reached out, gripping his arm. Come. There is a place you must see, a sanctuary hidden from time itself, where the Ember's true power awaits. Together, they turned away from the chapel's ruins, plunging deeper into the hollow wood, where ancient magic slumbered beneath the tangled roots, and the boundary between life and death blurred into twilight. The path into the hollow wood grew darker and more tangled with every step Rowan and Illyra took. The trees seemed to lean closer, their branches like skeletal fingers scratching at the sky. A heavy silence hung in the air, broken only by the crunch of dead leaves beneath their boots and the distant calls of unseen creatures. Illyra led the way confidently, her hand brushing aside thick vines that would have caught on any ordinary traveler. "Few know of this place," she whispered, "the sanctuary beneath the ashen roots. It's a nexus of ancient magic, where the ember's power was first kindled." As they reached a clearing, the earth trembled faintly. In the center, gnarled roots rose like pillars, entwining to form an archway glowing faintly with golden runes. Illyra traced her fingers over the symbols. "These marks are old, older than the village itself." Rowan approached cautiously. The air here hummed with energy, a mixture of warmth and abiding chill. He could almost hear the ember's heartbeat, calling to him from within the earth. Suddenly, from the shadows emerged a figure old yet majestic, clad in robes woven from twilight and stars. His eyes were pools of ancient wisdom and sorrow. "I am Sa'Elen, keeper of the sanctuary," he said, voice deep and resonant. "You carry the ember's light, Rowan, but it is not yet awakened. To wield its true power, you must face the trial of shadows." Before Rowan could respond, a sudden scream rent the night. The witches had found them. Morgana's voice echoed through the trees, dripping with venom. "You cannot hide from me, boy. The ember will be mine, or you will perish in the attempt." From the undergrowth, shadowy figures surged forward. Sa'Elen raised his staff, and a circle of protective light erupted around them, holding the attackers at bay for now. Illyra grabbed Rowan's arm. "The trial will test your soul, your heart, and your mind. If you fail, the ember's flame dies with you." Rowan felt the weight of those words settle heavy in his chest. But there was no turning back. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, ready to face whatever darkness awaited within the sanctuary. The ancient roots beneath Rowan's feet seemed to pulse with a life of their own, as if the very earth was breathing secrets older than time itself. The sanctuary's archway shimmered, its golden runes glowing brighter, casting elongated shadows that danced like restless spirits around the clearing. Rowan's heart pounded with anticipation, the weight of destiny pressing down on him more heavily than ever before. Sa'Elen's deep voice cut through the silence. "The trial of shadows is not a battle of steel or fire, young Rowan, but a test of your spirit. You must confront your deepest fears, your darkest memories, and emerge unbroken. Only then will the ember's flame awaken fully within you." Illyra's gaze was steady, but a flicker of worry crossed her features. "I've seen many fail the trial. It is merciless, and it changes those who survive it." Rowan tightened his grip on the wooden lantern, feeling the ember inside it flicker as if responding to his resolve. "Then I have no choice but to face it." With a nod from Sa'Elen, the glowing archway began to shift and ripple like liquid gold, expanding to form a portal swirling with shadow and light. Rowan stepped forward, the world around him dissolving into a whirlpool of memories and whispers. When his vision cleared, he found himself alone in a vast, dark forest, one that resembled emberwood but distorted, twisted by unseen forces. The trees were blackened, their branches clawing at a sky smeared with blood-red clouds. The air was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the faintest whispers calling his name. Suddenly, a figure stepped from behind a twisted tree, a younger version of Rowan himself, eyes wide with innocence and hope. "Why do you fear, Rowan?" the apparition asked, voice echoing like a distant melody. "You carry the ember, but do you truly understand its power?" Rowan's chest tightened. "I don't know what I'm meant to do. My father left me with the lantern, but never told me why. Now everything feels heavier. Darker." The apparition's smile was bittersweet. "The trial will show you truths you are not yet ready to face." As the words faded, the forest began to change. The shadows lengthened, twisting into nightmarish forms, a faceless figure cloaked in darkness, eyes burning like coals. It lunged at Rowan, and he barely dodged, heart racing. He raised his lantern, and the ember flared, casting a brilliant light that pushed back the shadow. But as the light spread, more shadows emerged, circling him like wolves. Memories flooded Rowan, flashes of his father's stern face, the lonely nights on the farm, the whispered warnings of the village elders. He saw himself as a child, hiding beneath a blanket during storms, the sound of his mother's soft lullabies. Through it all, a chilling voice echoed, "You cannot hide from your past." Suddenly, Rowan stumbled upon a shattered mirror lying in the dark woods. As he peered into it, his reflection twisted and morphed, showing him not as himself, but as a creature of shadow, a harbinger of darkness. "Is this who I am meant to become?" Rowan whispered, fear gripping his soul. The apparition reappeared. "The ember's power can be used to light the way, or to burn everything to ashes. The choice is yours." Gathering his courage, Rowan focused on the ember. The light grew steady and strong, illuminating the twisted forest with golden warmth. The shadows recoiled, howling in fury. But then a new figure appeared, Morgana, the Shadow Witch, her eyes gleaming with malice. "You think a child's flame can stand against me?" she hissed, stepping from the darkness. "I will extinguish your light and claim the ember's power for myself." Rowan stood firm, the lantern's glow unwavering. "You will not take what protects my home." A fierce battle ensued, shadow and light clashing in a whirlwind of power. Rowan felt the ember's warmth spread through his veins, filling him with strength he never knew he had. With a cry, he unleashed a burst of radiant light, forcing Morgana to retreat into the darkness. Breathing heavily, Rowan realized the trial was not just a test of strength, but of heart and will. The swirling portal reappeared, pulling him back to the sanctuary. There, Sielan and Illyra awaited, their expressions solemn but hopeful. "You have passed the first part of the trial," Sielan said. "But the journey is far from over. The ember's flame is awakening, but so too are the shadows." Illyra stepped forward, handing Rowan an ancient tome bound in cracked leather. "This is the Chronicle of Emberwood. It holds the secrets you will need. Study it well, for the witches will not rest, and the fate of Emberwood depends on you." Rowan nodded, determination blazing in his eyes. The night was far from over, and the true battle for the ember's light had only just begun. The first pale light of dawn crept cautiously over Emberwood, casting long shadows that trembled like ghosts across the ancient village. Rowan sat by the hearth in the small stone cottage he now called home, the Chronicle of Emberwood resting heavily on his lap. The leather-bound tome's pages whispered secrets and spells, but the words seemed tangled in riddles meant to test his resolve. Illyra stood by the window, eyes fixed on the distant outline of the hollow wood, where the witches still gathered like a brewing storm. "They won't wait," she murmured. "Morgana's coven grows stronger. We must uncover the truth behind the ember's origin, or it will be the last light Emberwood ever sees." Rowan nodded, tracing the ancient script with trembling fingers. A faded illustration caught his eye, a symbol of intertwined flames and shadows, beneath which a prophecy was etched in the old tongue. Illyra leaned closer, translating slowly. "When ember and shadow dance as one, the lost shall find the rising sun. But beware the heart that harbors spite, for only light can conquer night." The weight of the prophecy settled upon Rowan's shoulders like a shroud. Suddenly, a frantic knock shattered the fragile calm. The door burst open, and a breathless figure stumbled inside. It was Finian, the village blacksmith, eyes wide with terror. "They took her," he gasped. "Maeve, my sister, was near the edge of the hollow wood, and they seized her." "The witches?" Rowan's heart clenched. Maeve was known for her gentle spirit and healing hands. Why would the witches take her? "No time to waste," Illyra said, pulling on her cloak. "We must move before the coven completes whatever dark ritual they have planned." Outside, the village was stirring anxious whispers and hurried footsteps. Rowan grabbed his lantern, feeling the ember's warmth throb like a heartbeat. This was no longer just about protecting Emberwood, it was about saving one of their own. They ventured toward the hollow wood once more, the forest swallowing their footsteps and their fears. Along the way, Rowan noticed strange symbols carved into the bark of trees, sigils of binding and power. The witch's magic was ancient and cruel. Suddenly, from the shadows, a voice called out softly, almost a whisper carried by the wind. "Rowan." He spun around to see a figure cloaked in moonlight, not Morgana, but a younger woman with eyes like molten gold. She stepped forward, revealing a silver pendant shaped like a flame. "I am Eileen," she said. "I was once part of the coven, but I fled when I saw what they planned. The ember is a source of balance, not just power. If Morgana takes it, darkness will consume us all." Rowan hesitated, but Illyra nodded cautiously. "We need her." Eileen led them deeper into the forest, where the air grew thick with magic and malice. At the heart of the hollow wood, a circle of flickering candles surrounded Maeve, bound by vines pulsing with dark energy. Morgana stood nearby, chanting in a tongue older than time. As the ritual reached its climax, Rowan stepped forward, lantern blazing. "You won't harm her," he declared. Morgana's eyes gleamed with fury. Then face me, bearer of the ember. A fierce battle erupted beneath the ancient trees. Spells clashed in bursts of light and shadow, leaves ignited with ethereal fire, and the ground trembled. Rowan felt the ember's power surge within him, a fierce flame fueled by desperation and hope. As Morgana prepared a final, devastating curse, Islan intervened, sacrificing her freedom to bind Morgana in chains of silver light. The witch's grip faltered, and the ritual was broken. Maeve collapsed, but alive. Exhausted but victorious, Rowan looked to Illyra and Islan. The fight was far from over, but for now, Emberwood's light burned brighter than ever. The night had fallen heavy over Emberwood once more, but the victory from the day still shimmered faintly in the villagers' hearts. Yet, beneath the surface of calm, an ancient and forgotten power stirred, one older than the witch's coven, deeper than the ember's glow. Rowan sat by the fire in the village hall, the chronicle of Emberwood opened before him. His fingers traced the cryptic runes, seeking answers to the riddles that had plagued him since the trial. The pages spoke of the Blackthorn bloodline, a family cursed by betrayal, their secrets buried beneath layers of shadow and time. Illyra paced the room, her face tense. The coven's power is growing, but something else looms in the dark. The Blackthorn family was once protectors of the Ember, but something went terribly wrong centuries ago. A sudden gust swept through the hall, extinguishing the candles. Rowan's lantern flared in response, casting long, flickering shadows. "Tell me more," Rowan urged, leaning forward. Illyra hesitated, then began. Long ago, the Blackthorns were entrusted with guarding a fragment of the Ember, a spark so powerful it could change the fate of worlds. But greed and fear poisoned their hearts. One betrayed the others, seeking to use the Ember's power for his own dark ambitions. Rowan's eyes narrowed. Is this why the Ember's flame is so volatile? Because of this betrayal? Illyra nodded grimly. Yes. And the traitor's descendants still walk among us, their bloodline tainted with shadow. At that moment, a sharp knock came from the door. A hooded stranger stepped inside, rain dripping from his cloak. He removed his hood, revealing striking silver eyes that seemed to pierce the soul. "My name is Kalen," he said quietly. "I come from the Blackthorn line. I seek to atone for my ancestors' sins." Rowan and Illyra exchanged wary glances. Could they trust him? Kalen continued, "Morgana is not the only threat. The Coven is but a pawn for a darker force, a shadow that feeds on broken bloodlines and forgotten oaths. If we do not act, Emberwood will fall to eternal darkness." Suddenly, the hall trembled, and a deafening roar echoed outside. Villagers rushed to the windows, gasping as dark tendrils of shadow slithered over the treetops, swallowing the moonlight. "The shadow veil is descending," Kalen warned. "It corrupts everything it touches, twisting life into nightmares." Rowan rose, determination blazing anew. "Then we gather our strength. We fight not just for Emberwood, but for the soul of the Ember itself." Illyra unfolded a map, tracing ancient ley lines converging beneath the village. There is a hidden chamber beneath the old chapel, the heart of Emberwood. If we can awaken its power, we might stand a chance. Callan nodded. But it will not be easy. The path is guarded by the echo spirits of the betrayed blackthorns, trapped between worlds. As the shadow veil crept closer, Rowan felt the ember in his lantern pulse fiercely. The night ahead would be the most dangerous yet. With newfound allies and secrets unearthed, the battle for Emberwood was only beginning. The night air hung thick and heavy as Rowan, Illyra, and Callan gathered their gear at the edge of Emberwood's ancient chapel. Above them, the sky churned with roiling storm clouds, lightning flashing like the restless spirits that haunted their every step. Illyra, are you sure this is the only way? Rowan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Illyra nodded solemnly. The heart of Emberwood lies beneath the chapel's roots. It's where the ember's true power sleeps, but it is also where the betrayed souls of the Blackthorn line are trapped, the echoes. They guard the chamber fiercely. Callan pulled a small silver dagger from beneath his cloak. I've faced the echoes before. Their pain is eternal, their hatred a storm. We must be careful, for they do not forget. With the ember glowing steady in his lantern, Rowan pushed open the heavy oak doors of the chapel. Inside, the air was cold and still, the scent of ancient stone and forgotten prayers hanging thick. They descended a narrow spiral staircase, the walls closing in as they went deeper underground. The glow from Rowan's lantern cast dancing shadows, revealing carvings of intertwined flames and thorns etched into the stone. At the bottom, a massive iron door barred their way, inscribed with a warning in the old tongue, only those pure of heart and unwavering in purpose may enter. Rowan stepped forward, holding his lantern high. The ember flared brightly, and the door groaned open slowly, revealing a vast chamber bathed in a golden light emanating from a pulsing crystal at its center, the heart of Emberwood. But as they stepped inside, the temperature plunged. From the shadows emerged ghostly figures, pale, anguished, with eyes like burning coals. The echoes. Their mournful voices echoed in unison, "Why do you seek the ember's power? What have you to offer?" Rowan swallowed his fear. "We seek to protect Emberwood. To end the darkness that threatens all we hold dear." The echo's forms twisted and writhed, their sorrow turning to rage. They surged forward, testing Rowan's resolve and the strength of his light. The battle was unlike any Rowan had faced, not with swords or spells, but with willpower. Every step forward meant confronting the pain and betrayal that had bound the echoes for centuries. With Illyra and Callan's support, Rowan channeled the ember's flame, projecting memories of hope and unity, trying to soothe the echo's torment. Slowly, the spirits faltered, their hatred softening into acceptance. One by one, the echoes reached out, merging with the golden light of the heart, freeing themselves from their eternal prison. As the last spirit faded, the chamber brightened, and Rowan felt a surge of power coursing through him. The ember's flame had awakened fully. Illyra smiled, exhausted but triumphant. The power to protect Emberwood now rests in your hands. But from the depths of the chamber, a low growl rumbled, a reminder that the true darkness had not yet been faced. The golden glow of the heart of Emberwood filled the vast chamber with a warm, pulsing light. Rowan felt the ember's power surge through him, igniting a fire deep within his soul. Yet, beneath that warmth, a cold, sinister presence stirred, unseen but palpably dangerous. As the last echo dissolved into light, the ground trembled violently, sending dust and loose stones cascading from the chamber's ceiling. From the darkest corner, a shadow coalesced, twisting into a monstrous form with eyes like burning coals and horns spiraling like ancient trees. "I am Calthor, the Shadow-born," the creature intoned, voice echoing with malice and ancient fury. "Born of betrayal and hatred, I have awaited this moment to reclaim the ember's power and plunge this world into eternal darkness." Rowan raised his lantern, its light flickering against the encroaching shadow. "You will not succeed, Calthor. The ember's flame will protect Emberwood and all who dwell within." Calthor laughed, a sound like cracking ice. "Foolish boy. The ember's flame is but a flicker against the storm I bring. Your light will be snuffed out." Suddenly, the chamber doors slammed shut, sealing them inside. Rowan glanced at Illyra and Kaelin, their faces pale but resolute. "We must bind Calthor," Kaelin said, drawing an ancient rune-etched blade. "The ember's power alone cannot defeat him." Illyra began chanting in the old tongue, weaving a circle of light around Calthor, but the Shadow-born's strength warped and tore at the edges. Rowan concentrated, focusing the ember's warmth, channeling memories of his village, his family, and the hope that had brought him this far. With a cry, he thrust the lantern forward, the ember's flame exploding in a wave of golden fire that momentarily forced Calthor back. But the Shadow-born was relentless, breaking free, and lunging at Rowan with claws like sharpened obsidian. The battle raged, light clashing against shadow in a furious dance. Rowan felt the ember's flame waver, flickering perilously. Just as despair threatened to overwhelm him, a sudden warmth enveloped Rowan's hand. Island had returned, her silver pendant glowing brightly. "Together," she whispered, joining their powers. With their combined strength, Rowan, Illyra, Kaelin, and Island forged a blazing sigil in the air, binding Calthor in chains of pure light. The Shadow-born roared in fury, shrieking as he was dragged into a void of silence. As the chamber settled, Rowan sank to his knees, breathless but victorious. Illyra placed a hand on his shoulder. "The ember's flame has chosen you as its true guardian. But the fight is far from over. The Coven will seek revenge, and darker forces still linger." Kaelin nodded. "Our path will be perilous, but united, we have hope." Rowan looked around at his newfound allies, determination burning in his eyes. "Then let us prepare. For Emberwood, for the Ember, and for the light that refuses to die." The calm after the storm was fragile, like the last flicker of a dying candle struggling to hold the darkness at bay. Rowan and his companions emerged from the sanctuary beneath the chapel, weary but resolute. Yet, the victory over Kael'thor had only awakened deeper shadows lurking beyond Emberwood's borders. As dawn broke, an urgent message arrived, a raven, its feathers black as midnight, bearing a sealed scroll etched with the Coven's ominous sigil. Illyra broke the seal with trembling fingers. "They're gathering," she said gravely. "Morgana has summoned the Coven to the ruins of Black Hollow, an ancient site steeped in forgotten magic. They plan to harness the lost flame, a fragment of the Ember's power hidden away centuries ago." Rowan's gaze hardened. "If they succeed, it could mean the end of everything we fight for." Kaelin stepped forward. "The lost flame is more than just power. It's the Ember's heart, the source of its balance. If the Coven corrupts it, all light will be consumed by shadow." Island's eyes glinted with fierce determination. "We cannot let that happen. We must reach Black Hollow first and stop their ritual." The four set out immediately, navigating dense forests and treacherous hills. Along the way, Rowan's lantern burned steadily, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. As they neared Black Hollow, the air grew thick with tension and ancient magic. The ruins were massive, crumbling stones entwined with thorny vines that seemed almost alive. Inside the heart of the ruins, Morgana stood at the center of a vast circle inscribed with glowing runes. Around her, the Coven witches, warlocks, and twisted spirits chanted in unison, their voices weaving a spell older than the trees themselves. Suddenly, Rowan felt a sharp tug at his soul, a connection to the lost flame pulsing beneath the ruins. He moved forward, his friends by his side, prepared to confront the gathering storm. The ancient stones of Black Hollow thrummed with power, glowing faintly beneath Morgana's feet as the Coven's chant reached a fevered pitch. The air crackled with raw magic, swirling in eddies of shadow and flame. Rowan's breath caught in his throat, the lost flame pulsed beneath them, a heartbeat of fire that could either heal or destroy. Illyra's eyes flickered with fear. "They're weaving a curse so old, it could unravel the very fabric of Emberwood." Kaelin gripped his rune-etched blade tightly. "We have to break the circle before the spell completes." Island's silver pendant shimmered. "The Coven's magic feeds on fear and division. We must stand united or fall divided." Rowan stepped forward, raising his lantern high. The ember blazed, illuminating the runes etched into the ground. As he moved closer, the flames of the lost flame flickered in response, as if recognizing a kindred spirit. Suddenly, Morgana's voice rang out, sharp and commanding. "Intruders! You dare challenge the Coven?" The witches turned, their eyes glowing with fury and dark intent. Rowan felt their power slam into him like a tidal wave, threatening to snuff out his light. But he stood firm, the ember's warmth spreading through his veins, steadying his heart. A brutal battle erupted, magic against magic, light against shadow. Rowan and his friends fought with everything they had, weaving spells and strikes in perfect harmony. Amid the chaos, Rowan's mind was pulled toward the center of the circle, where the lost flame burned, a swirling orb of pure fire, alive and sentient. He reached out, feeling a connection deep and profound. Memories flooded him of ancestors who once protected the ember, of sacrifices made to keep the balance. But then, a chilling whisper slithered into his mind: doubt, fear, temptation. You could wield all power, it hissed, rule over light and shadow alike. Rowan clenched his fists, fighting the voice. I am the guardian of the ember, not its master. With renewed strength, he grasped the lost flame, feeling it meld with the ember in his lantern. A brilliant explosion of light burst forth, blinding and pure, banishing the coven's darkness and sealing their fate. As the ruins quieted, Rowan turned to his friends, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of victory but shadowed by exhaustion. Illyra smiled faintly. The balance is preserved. For now. Kalen nodded. But the ember's story is far from over. Shadows will rise again. Island's gaze was steady. And when they do, we will stand ready. Rowan looked to the horizon, the first rays of dawn piercing the night. The ember in his lantern burned bright, a promise of light in the face of encroaching darkness. The victory at Black Hollow had brought a fleeting peace to Emberwood. The villagers whispered tales of Rowan and his companions' bravery, their names spoken with reverence in every hearth and tavern. Yet beneath the veneer of tranquility, a storm brewed darker and more insidious than before. Rowan stood atop the hill overlooking the village, the ember lantern cradled in his hands. Its gentle glow pulsed like a heartbeat, syncing with the rhythm of the land itself. But a cold shiver ran down his spine, an echo of a warning whispered by Saelen days before. The ember is waking, but so is the shadow. They are two sides of the same flame, one cannot exist without the other. Illyra joined him silently, her eyes scanning the horizon. I've sensed disturbances in the ley lines. The coven's remnants have dispersed, but their influence lingers. The shadow is regrouping. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the tree line, cloaked, hooded, moving with an unnatural silence. Rowan's hand went to his lantern instinctively. I come with a message, the stranger said, voice low and urgent. Pulling back the hood revealed a young woman with piercing green eyes and a scar tracing her cheek, a mark of the ancient pact. My name is Seraphine, keeper of the Shadow's seal. The balance is failing. The binding that once held the forgotten spirits, twisted by greed and pain, is weakening. If they break free, Emberwood will fall. Rowan felt the weight of her words settle deep within him. How do we stop them? Seraphine's gaze was grave. The binding lies within the veil of twilight, a realm between worlds, accessible only by those who bear the ember's flame. You must journey there and renew the binding before the forgotten break through. Kalen and Eileen appeared beside Rowan, their faces grim but determined. The journey will test your soul like never before, Kalen warned. The veil twists reality. You will face your deepest fears and darkest desires. Illyra handed Rowan a pendant shimmering with ethereal light. This will anchor your spirit. Without it, you risk being lost forever. That night, As the village slept, Rowan prepared for the crossing. The air hummed with magic as he lit his lantern, the ember flaring bright and steady. With a final look at his friends and home, he stepped into the circle of ancient runes carved into the earth beneath the oldest oak, the gateway to the Vale of Twilight. The world around him melted into shadows and light, swirling into a realm where time and space held no meaning. Within the Vale, Rowan was met with visions, fractured memories of his past, echoes of pain and loss. He saw himself standing alone in the forest, the lantern's light dimming as whispers of doubt crept in. But then, the ember flared, a beacon in the darkness. From the shadows, the forgotten emerged, ghostly figures writhing in torment, eyes burning with hunger. Rowan raised his lantern, the ember's flame rising to a fierce blaze. "This is not your release," he declared. "This is your chance for peace." A battle unlike any before began, not of brute force, but of will and spirit. Rowan's heart pounded as he chanted the ancient words of binding, weaving light and compassion into chains of energy that wrapped around the forgotten. One by one, the spirits calmed, their anguish easing as the binding renewed. But from the farthest depths of the Vale, a terrible roar shattered the silence, a new force stirring, more powerful and ancient than any Rowan had faced. The shadow's resurgence had begun. The Vale of Twilight had trembled beneath Rowan's feet, and the binding renewed, but the shadow lurking beyond was no mere spirit or witch. It was an ancient force older than Emberwood itself, the primordial darkness, a living void seeking to consume all light and hope. Back in the village, the sky had turned an unnatural shade of black, stars vanishing as if swallowed whole. The villagers gathered in the town square, clutching talismans and murmuring prayers, eyes wide with fear and hope. Rowan, Illyra, Kaelin, Eileen, and Seraphine stood shoulder to shoulder before the ancient oak, their lanterns blazing, symbols of unity and defiance. "We stand as one," Rowan declared, voice ringing through the night. "Not just for Emberwood, but for every soul that believes in the light." From the Vale, a shadowy tempest surged, coalescing into a monstrous form, the darkness incarnate. Its voice was a roar that shook the earth, promising oblivion. The battle that followed was fierce and desperate. Magic flared like lightning, swords clashed with echoes of ancient wars, and Rowan's ember blazed like a sun in the gloom. In the heart of the storm, Rowan reached deep into the ember's flame, calling forth the legacy of every guardian before him, their courage, their sacrifices, their hopes. With a cry that echoed across realms, he unleashed a radiant burst of pure light, piercing the darkness's core. For a moment, all was silent. Then, slowly, the shadows receded, the stars returned, and dawn's golden fingers spread across Emberwood. Exhausted but victorious, Rowan looked to his friends, their faces alight with relief and quiet joy. Illyra smiled softly. "The light endures." Kaelin nodded. "As long as there are those willing to protect it." Eileen stepped forward, her eyes shining. "The ember's flame will always burn, a beacon against the night." Seraphine added, "And the binding will hold, as long as we remember." Rowan lifted his lantern high, the ember glowing steady and eternal. The village erupted in cheers, the air filled with hope and renewal. As the sun rose over Emberwood, Rowan knew the journey was far from over. But tonight, the light was theirs. And the ember would never die. Tuda. Emberwood's Flame, the legend of the Jack-o'-lantern guardian. Amota. In the misty village of Emberwood, young Rowan O'Shea inherits an ancient ember, a sacred flame passed down through generations, destined to protect his home from encroaching darkness. As shadowy witches and ancient evils rise to claim the ember's power, Rowan embarks on a perilous journey through haunted forests, forgotten realms, and trials of spirit and will. With the aid of steadfast allies, the mysterious Illyra, the repentant Kaelin, the exiled Island, and the keeper Seraphim, Rowan confronts ancient curses, battles the Shadowborn, and rekindles the binding that keeps darkness at bay. This epic tale weaves myth, magic, and courage into a gripping saga about light, legacy, and the eternal fight against the shadows. Will Rowan rise as the true guardian of Emberwood's flame, or will the darkness extinguish all hope?